of the BBC's Children in Need appeal, who resigned last month, accusing the charity of institutional failure. This is Rosie Millard, who is a writer and broadcaster who had once been the BBC's arts correspondent. She'd been the chair of Children in Need since 2018. But she felt she just didn't have the backing of the entire board after Children in Need had given nearly £500,000 in grants to LGBT Youth Scotland. The grants were suspended after the discovery that LGBT Youth Scotland's founder had been convicted of child sex assaults. Another convicted paedophile had written a children's guide to coming out for the charity, and an article in The Times alleged that LGBT Youth Scotland had behaved irresponsibly around young people. Rosie told me why she felt she had no choice but to quit.
Well, I thought if BBC Children in Need does not cancel its grants to LGBT Youth Scotland, I would resign. In the end, it did cancel the grants, but I felt the board wasn't really with me, and you can't chair a board if all the trustees are not in agreement together, so I had to go.
How many people are on the board?
14.
And what sort of people are they?
Well, it's half the trustees are executives at the BBC and half are from different walks of life, experts in tax, experts in the charitable world. So we have really good brains. It's a very good board. I should know I picked the whole board, but it wasn't an agreement, and it was wrestling over this situation, which I didn't really think needed to be wrestled over. To me, it was quite clear what should happen.
Right. Now, you need to explain what it is this organisation in Scotland had done.
I discovered that BBC Children in Need was funding LGBT Youth Scotland, which is a Scottish-wide, medium-sized charity, which has had a lot of problems, which I felt would bring Children in Need into reputational damage. It was founded by a convicted paedophile. After that, it had historic accusations of child abuse. And then this summer, it was found that another convicted paedophile had been working for it recently as a volunteer and had written a guide, a coming out guide, for it. I also felt that it was, in its official statements for the Charity Commission, this charity, LGBT Youth Scotland, is meant to focus on, well, specifically for young people aged from 13 to 25. And yet I discovered that it was working in 40 primary schools across Scotland.
So talking to children as young as...
As long as 4.
4, right.
Yeah, I mean, primary schools, you know. So it had a charter which primary schools were encouraged to sign up to. And this charter brought in notions of gender fluidity, brought in a kind of, you know, issues about gender identity, which I felt very strongly, small children. When you're at primary school, you want to learn to read and write. I don't think you want to have conversations of gender fluidity uppermost in your daily life at school.
How much money was Children in Need giving to this organisation?
This is all in the public domain. We gave, over the 14 years that we funded them, we gave them just short of £500,000.
And how did you find out that the money was going to this particular charity? You say it was relatively new to you, this bit of information.
It was, yes, in May this year, I read a story in the newspaper, in the Times actually, about LGBT Youth Scotland behaving in a irresponsible way with young people, and I immediately thought, well, I wonder if we fund them. And I then discovered the chief executive didn't know whether we funded them or not.
And the chief executive is?
Of BBC Children in Need, Simon Antrobus. He didn't know that they were being funded by us, even though it's in the public domain. And I found out, and I then did a spot of due diligence on this charity and realised that it was not a charity that I was happy with us being associated with.
And you then talked to
I then
Mr.
called
Antrobus.
an immediate board meeting And I spoke to Mr. Antrobus and I said, we must withdraw funding immediately. There was a potential of existential damage and ruin to BBC Children in Need.
We've just had Children in Need. It's a big televisual extravaganza. A lot of people, particularly right now, who are up against it, give money because they feel that it's the right thing to do. I think they'd be really alarmed that the wider organisation hadn't done due diligence on every single charity that gets money from Children in Need. Why was that allowed to happen?
I don't know. Well, I mean, we were assured that it does happen. In fact, one of the reasons why we get so much money from the general public, who are incredibly generous, is because we say, we know where your money is going. Give your money to us and we will spend it wisely.
But here is a clear illustration that you didn't always know where that money was going.
Exactly.
And that's why you've had to go. You just can't do that job anymore.
That's not the reason that I've gone. The reason I've gone is because I didn't have the board wholly with me. And I've ordered a review into all charities where there might be a news urgent issue about them, and to check that they are all above board.
Mari Crawford is the chief executive of this organisation in Scotland, and she said that your resignation letter demonstrates the ideologically driven nature of her attacks on our organisation. In other words, you're a TERF. What do you say to that?
I'm proud to be one. And I felt this charity was harming children, and Children in Need. The mission for Children in Need is to support and help children, help them be the best they can be and not harm them. And if you call me, if that is being a TERF, then I'm proud to be one.
You can't actually say with any certainty, and you've already said you've ordered a review, that there aren't other charities currently spending money willingly donated by people who are probably slightly strapped for cash, as many people are right now, are not equally disreputable.
Well, Children Need funds 1,500 charities. After this issue, I demanded to see all charities which deal with transgender issues. And Children Need funds 7 of them. And I did due diligence on all of them that day. And to my relief, I found that they were what they said they were, and they seemed to be above board.
Why do you think the rest of the board are reluctant to come with you on this? Because, as you said right at the beginning, it seems pretty clear-cut. I mean, the man who founded this organisation, his offences were at the horrific end of paedophilia, if I can put it like that. This is a man who was convicted of some really deeply unpleasant offences involving babies. Why can't they just agree that you're right here?
You have to ask them. I don't know.
And as you said, these are people you appointed. You must have expected more of them.
I did. And I think such is the pressure to appear inclusive that people bend over backwards to show that they are not prejudiced against people who may have different sexuality from them, who may have different views on their own gender for them. I mean, frankly, I don't mind if any adult person does anything they want to their body. I don't care what they cut off, what they improve or they augment, what clothes they wear. But here I'm with Dr. Hilary Cass, who says that scientifically a young person's brain is not properly formed to go ahead into adult life, as it were, until the age of 25. Until then, don't start suggesting puberty blockers.
Yeah.
This charity, BBC, LGBT Youth Scotland, said that puberty blockers were, I'm quoting, a wonderful thing, these wonderful puberty blockers, and also were suggesting breast binders were a good idea. How can you even think about this for children and young people? It is just shocking.
Do you feel, in a sense, that you've been hounded out of this role? Or are you actually now somebody who's somewhat relieved to be able to think about doing other things with her life?
I am relieved, and I am going to do other things with my life. Do I feel I've been hounded out? I think my position was made untenable. And I think that if you are the whistleblower, then sometimes you're going to get thrown under the bus.
And that's what's happened to you.
Yeah.
What about the BBC? Because obviously the Greg Wallace issue is a live one at the moment. Now, we should say that his lawyers have said he's absolutely not somebody who recognises sexually harassing behaviour in his own conduct. But